2021. And the recommendation that the minutes of the regular council meeting held on April 19th, 2021 be adopted as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
is that on?
Sorry.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Business arising from, oh, there is none. Business arising from the minutes. Councillor Coomer.
Sorry, no, that's our next meeting.
Okay. Committee reports, Economic Development, Councillor Peters and Councillor Coomer.
I have nothing.
I'd just like to say that Hat Creek Ranch is planning on opening this year, yay.
Yeah.
They were hoping to open by now, today, but they had some major plumbing problems and they couldn't get everything spick and span and clean in time for opening, so it looks like they'll be opening next week instead, but it's good news for our area.
That was Alana.
Okay, thank you. And the market was open, lots of people.
Oh, yes, we had a really good turnout, 15 vendors until 11:05 when it started spitting rain and everyone just disappeared with the wind,
Oh.
that 40-kilometer-an-hour gusting wind. Try it again next week.
Thank you. Budget and Administrative Services, Councillor Peters and Councillor Coomer.
Do you want to? No?
I would move that we receive and file the information regarding the active transportation planning grant.
I'll
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Too short a time.
Policy
Christina?
bylaw review, and we have our CFO, his presentation for us.
Yes, I would like to have another presentation just to reiterate the numbers that I presented last Thursday to the public. Okay. Just a bit of technical issues to fix. I just want Annette to be available. Go ahead. They can hear you talking. Yeah, okay, so I just want to say that based on community charter requirements, the budget that the village has to present has to be balanced and presented to the public annually. So starting with that consideration, I would like to talk about the constraints that we are facing this year, preparing the budget. In the past, all the budget were prepared using a 2% to 2.5% inflationary rate. But this year, because probably COVID and many other factors, everything is much more inflated than anticipated, with utility prices like hydro and Fortis being up about 10%. Excuse me, the insurance up 27%, worker compensation 26%, the equipment and supply, we all know the lumber is about 300% up, fuel up 20%. So all these factors make preparing the budget more difficult because of the uncertainties the future are having for us. Currently, the village is engaged in projects up to $5.4 million in progress, with the wastewater treatment plant upgrade being just finalized last month. Critical infrastructure project being approved recently. The asset management collaborative project with Ashcroft being on our front burner. Flood mitigation, then we have to deal with the backup well, the Eastern Canada hybrid bridge. We have the Tesla charger, which I want to point out that it's not being paid by the village. However, being involved in dealing with this project, there is some staff wage being covered by the village. Economic Development Action Plan, the 2020 flood, which was a very, very bad year, bad flood year, leaving a lot of infrastructure uncovered and needing repair, and many more. Now, when we talk about budget and we talk about accounting, the way the balance is being, the budget is being structured is having in mind our funds. And there are three funds out there: the general operations, the water operations, sewer operations, and then of course there are the reserves. The water and the sewer operations are pretty self-explanatory, but in the general operation we have, and I want to highlight the public works, the street, the fixing of the streets and roads, the solid waste collection, protective services such as the volunteer fire department, culture and recreation, and administrative, and many other departments. The revenue that the village generates is basically the municipal taxation, the sales of services such as water, sewer, and waste collection, then the business licenses and permits, the penalties from late payments, and external sources like the landfill royalties, which right now is pretty minimal, and government grants, most of them for capital infrastructure, but also for some cultural and development initiatives. For expenditures, the village spent money with protective services, parks and recreation, on transportation, water, providing water and sewer services, and on capital projects. Now, I have prepared a budget, a 5-year financial plan based on the inflation rate, which, as I mentioned earlier, is a constraint because it's very uncertain and hard to predict. And also from a conservative standpoint, trying to ensure that I accounted for all the expenditure that we may encounter, even though some of those may not materialize, but I had to take them into consideration just in case, to be prepared. For the expenditure, of course, we have the capital expenditure at $5.4 million, and then the general municipal at $2.4 million, the water, sewers, and then we have the reserves. I want to explain probably just for the taxpayers to have the knowledge that taxes payable are based on the tax rate that is set by the council and based on the assessed value that is set by the BC Assessment Authority. The assessed value of the property is based on, the property taxes are based on the assessed value, and that is determined by the BC Assessment Authority. And this year, the assessed values went up about 10% from the previous year. The BC Assessment Authority is an independent Crown corporation, and its mandate is to establish and maintain a uniform real property assessment throughout BC. The assessor determines the market value and generates the assessment roll. The tax rate is determined internally to generate a balanced budget to comply with the community charter requirement, and this year is up 20% from the previous year. That's my recommendation. Now, I want to explain also that the property taxes and the notices that the villagers are going to receive, they don't reflect necessarily what the village is going to have as revenue. only a small portion, about 50%, is being retained within the municipality as revenue. And that is the municipal levy and also the water and sewer frontages based on the access to infrastructure of the population. All the other levies are being collected by the municipality on behalf of other authorities, like the school and policing levies, which are administered provincially, the TNRD levy, which is regionally administered just like the health levy, and then the BCAA and the MFA, those are other authorities. And you are going to see, I prepared here an example of how a property tax notice is going to look like, and just the highlighted items out of your notice are going to be retained within the municipality as revenue. All the others are being submitted as requisition to other parties. And now we just had protest outside because people want to know why I recommend that swimming pool is not going to be open this year. And that's because here is the situation I plotted out the operations of the swimming pool for the last 10 years, and every single year the village, the swimming pool operation costs are between 100 and 120,000 years. And given the fact that right now we don't have the landfill revenues to cover up for the deficits, my recommendation is that the council will not open the pool. And here I'm going to show that the swimming pool operation as a percentage of the municipal revenue. In 2015, the operations of the pool were 33% out of the entire municipal levy. And last year, when we didn't open the pool, we only spent about 4% out of municipal taxation towards pool, and that's practically the chemicals and the utilities in order to ensure that the pool is functional and we don't have any infrastructural glitches. And now if there are any questions before we move towards the bylaws, maybe, or should we wait until the end for the questions?
Unless there's questions from our council at this point.
Yeah.
Seeing none?
Well, why didn't we apply for grants?
Thank you. We've dealt with that issue.
Yeah, well, it's public, the question was asked in the public, so that the public knows that we're questioning that. So you can go ahead and do
Thank
whatever
you.
you want now.
Thank you. Thanks for chairing the meeting. Ms. Martini, anything further?
No, that was everything. I just wanted to reiterate our financial position before we
Thank you.
go into reading.
Okay, policy and bylaw review.
I would move that we give first three readings and to bylaw number 2-001, Village of Cache Creek 5-year financial plan. Bylaw number 2-001 2021, with the change of, on page number 16 of our agenda, the line that says under policy in the first line that we strike per year, to change it to the village has chosen a 30% tax rate increase.
Thank you.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Carried.
Opposed.
Councillor Pittman opposed.
So that's for the first three readings, right? Okay. I would move that the Village of Cache Creek bylaw number 2-002, Village of Cache Creek tax rate bylaw number 2-002 2021 be given first, second, and third reading as presented.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed?
Opposed.
Counselor Pittman, opposed.
I would move we give first three readings to Village of Cache Creek bylaw number 2-003, Village of Cache Creek frontage rates bylaw number 2-003, 2021.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed?
Opposed.
Counselor Pittman, opposed. Carried.
I would move that we give first three readings to Village of Cache Creek bylaw number 5-003, a bylaw to establish a scheme for intercommunity bylaw enforcement.
Second.
Discussion.
I would just say that, like to say that both Clinton and Ashcroft have approved these bylaws.
Any further? All in favor? Opposed? Counselor Pittman, opposed.
That's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Public Works and Community Facilities, myself and Counselor Defoe.
Nothing from me.
Thank you. Village Services and Liaison, Counselor Defoe and Counselor Coomer.
I am delayed. No, nothing from me, thank you.
Thank you. Protective Services, myself and Counselor Coomer. Counselor Coomer.
I'm wondering if you have talked to Sergeant Angman yet about the Mayor's Task Force.
Have not
Okay.
sent him an email, but we haven't got together yet. Intergovernmental Relations, myself and Counselor Coomer.
I'll move that council receive and file the information from the TNRD regarding their proposed corrugated cardboard disposal ban bylaw.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Carried. Unanimous. Yes.
I have just something I'd like to bring to your attention. I attended the online SILGA, Southern Interior Local Government Association AGM last week, and there are three of the resolutions that might interest this council. There were 32 resolutions in all, and sadly only about 50 people seemed to be attending, but it was good. The first that I thought might interest you was the flood mitigation response that was brought forward by the Okanagan-Similkameen Regional District, and it was carried. And it was resolved that UBCM lobby the province to develop programs that take a proactive approach to flood mitigation rather than continuing to try to download additional responsibilities onto local governments who are ill-equipped and lacking in financial capacity to address these situations. The second was the vacant land property tax resolution, and this kind of fit in with our downtown vision, which we had done in 2019. And goal number one, recommendation that called on the village to develop a commercial vacancy tax bylaw to return vacant properties to thriving businesses. And the resolution was brought forward by the District of Lillooet, and it was also carried that UBCM requests the province of British Columbia to conduct a review of the community charter to amend the legislation to grant municipal councils authority to add a vacant land property tax. And these will be brought up at UBCM later on this year, and it's likely that UBCM will be another online conference again. And the third one, I know will perk up your ears, was brought forward by the Village of Chase, and it was regarding fire apparatus maintenance for small geographic fire departments. And it was carried that it be resolved that UBCM asked the provincial government to urge fire underwriters to allow small municipalities with small geographic areas to operate their well-maintained and low-mileage fire apparatus beyond 20 years as their first response apparatus.
It's an interesting one.
Yeah. And a full slate of president and vice presidents and directors were elected, and next year they're hoping to be meeting face-to-face again in Salmon Arm.
Very good. Thank you. Landfill Advisory Committee, myself and Councillor Coomber. Councillor Coomber, a small report.
Sure. Kind of brief report. The gas and landfill gas and leachate are declining, and they have been since 2018. 2017 was the high year, and they've been coming down since then. The Belcorp has purchased 15 new B-trains, and they're, correct me if I'm wrong, they're looking at shredding garbage at the source to bring up here because they can pack more into the trains, the trucks. And they brought 4,252 tons of municipal waste to the landfill in 2020, and more to come this year. And I believe Mr. Black commented that they were hoping for, oh dear, 100,000 tons this year and 200 next.
Correct.
Hoping. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Did they say how the tonnage would be affected by the shredding? Would it change the tonnage
No.
amounts, or
So they would allow more tonnage to be put in the
into
B
the
trains.
truck?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're not adequately maximizing their load capacity and their trip costs by the underutilization of the B trains. So they're not able to bring as much back up than they would like. So they're going to look at shredding to bring more tonnage per trip. Landfill Advisory Committee?
Nope, we did that.
Sorry, Emergency Management Committee.
We'll make us do it again.
Things
Yeah.
are pretty quiet right now. Pretty positive that Cache Creek has done its thing and will not do it again. We had a bit of a scare last weekend. It got to the top of not last weekend, the week before, that it got high, but not to the point where we were having any overflows. Bonaparte, there is still a fairly substantial snowpack high up, so we are not out of the woods with that one yet, but things are much calmer this year than by this time last year. Our park was flooded, there was infrastructure damage, there was all kinds of things happening, so fingers crossed. Everybody keep their fingers crossed and touch wood all they can.
Perfect. Thank you. Information correspondence? New business? Questions from the public?
I do have a few questions from the public. Let me just start at the beginning here. I'll group some of them together if
Thank
they
you.
are similar. Question 1, does the village have a plan to fix the path in the park? And when will the public washrooms in the park be open?
That's a good question. We'll put it on our CFO's to-do list for tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you for the question.
A couple of questions about the Tesla charging station. How much is the village covering of the chargers? If we have no money to spend, why are we paying for any amount for the Tesla chargers? And CFO Martini just said that the village has things to cover at the beginning of the video regarding the chargers. So I think they didn't quite hear what you said
No,
about
they
the
didn't.
chargers. So-
No, we didn't, the village didn't pay for the charger. Said there were a few wages because we dealt with the projects and we had to answer the emails and phone call to coordinate the presence here, but other than that, the village didn't pay anything for those chargers.
Next one is a group of questions again. When will you have a code of conduct? Does the village have a bullying and harassment policy?
We're not gonna get into that.
Okay. Someone, I'll tell you that after.
Policies
What
are,
oh, go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say, policies are available on our website.
Okay. What is the amount allocated to parks and recreation? There's no pool, the park looks awful, no washrooms, not very welcoming.
Well, just a
What is
minimal,
our
but
budget item?
there is a budget item
Yeah.
in the details, and a much more detailed version of the budget is going to be presented for the public and available at later time.
How does council propose to spend the COVID money?
Well, we had some discussion on the COVID restart fund, and it was left on the table as something that we should have in the bank in the event that COVID-19 does not, or persists, I'm sorry, and carries on into the future for any extended time, and that fund could be used off for mainly the COVID-19 at this point, but we have spent some of that money, and Christina can bring us up to date on what we've spent that on. Items like our firefighting apparatus, or CVAs, was one item that we have spent money on. But the remainder will be kept for until COVID-19 resides.
When will you hire a new CAO? Why is the CAO's job put to CFO Martini when she's constantly stated she is too busy to even apply for grants?
I can answer that.
The job
Well, we
posting.
are in the process of recruiting, so the job advertisement was out there, and the closing was on Friday, so now the council is going to reevaluate all the applications and make a decisions at later time. And what was the second part of the question?
I think you answered, why are you doing the job?
Okay.
Because it's your job. More about the washrooms, wages, okay.
And the washrooms in the park are mainly closed because of COVID, and because they need to be sterilized after each use, and because we don't have the capacity to do that.
Okay. The COVID fund could have been used for the pool, could it not have?
No.
No.
No. In case we didn't get that.
Yeah, the rest are kind of repeat questions that you've already answered, so. Oh, sorry, I have one more.
Thank you.
The slide presentation says proposed tax rate up 20% from 2020, but on page 16 of the agenda, it says the village has chosen a 30% tax rate increase in 2021. Which is it?
It is 30%. It was another slide earlier where I showed that there is a 10% change in assessment value, about 10% increase in the assessment value coming from BC Assessment Authority. And in addition, there is a 20% that the council is, well, I recommended, and now the council had the readings on, to satisfy our financial needs, and to an aggregate of 30% increase.
It's detailed on page number 15 under objective.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
They're arguing about other things.
Questions from the press?
I have nothing.
Motion to move in camera.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Carried.